Welcome to Solarpunk Life. We're at Gathering Springs Farm out here in Loudoun County, Virginia, and I'm with George Ardura. George, what are we doing today?
I'm doing a little bit of composting today for Worm Works Composting. Open this up. Basically, what we do before here, we gather all of the food waste we've collected over the course of the week into these big 27-gallon totes. At their most, they're 120 pounds each. If they're all the way filled up, we weigh them, and then we put them into this truck, and we drive it out here. Next step that we do is basically unload it here, and then we can hop in this tractor and move it over to the field.
Now, George, how did you start this? What got you into composting?
It is a very long story. My first stint with composting came the summer going into my senior year of high school. I was out gardening with my parents, and we're pulling up weeds. I kind of realized it's kind of weird to throw these in the trash. Figured there must have been something else we could do with it, and asked my mom, is this really what we do? And she was like, yeah, I mean, that's what else do we do? So I was like, let me figure it out. Look online, kind of learn about composting, and I went to Home Depot that day, picked up some big 27-gallon totes and started doing some bin composting that day. And ever since, I've got into worm composting, which is called vermicomposting. And about a year after that, started Worm Works with a friend of mine in college, my first year of college. And we've been going ever since, the past 2 years.
What's the complications of being in college running a business?
Well, the biggest complication right now is that this business is in Middleburg, Virginia, which is kind of in northern Virginia, and I go to school at the University of Virginia, which is in Charlottesville, which is
Central Virginia.
Central Virginia. So
It's
obviously,
like a 2-hour drive, right?
this is a very physical business. First thing people ask is how does that even work?
Right.
This whole thing is going week to week. You're doing composting pickups from subscribers every single week. You're coming out here composting. Truth of the matter is, at the beginning, I was coming up during the weekends doing this with my initial co-founder. And as we've kind of gone more and more commercial and picked up more and more subscribers, we've actually been able to hire a bunch of people to help us out.
Nice.
Yeah, so
you say subscribers. So this is a service that you provide to people.
Yep.
They pay a monthly fee.
Yep, that's right.
And the service is that their compost scraps, their compostable waste, comes here and becomes compost.
We either come and pick up their food waste and their compostable waste from their house, similar to a trash recycling service. We also offer drop-off locations. These are central locations. We have 10 of them around Loudoun and Fairfax counties. And that's a location where subscribers can also come and drop off their waste. Once we do that, we basically consolidate it throughout the week. And then once a week, we drive it down to Middleburg. We compost it all. And by the time it's finished composting, then each subscriber can basically claim their share of compost, finished compost.
So that their waste becomes something that they can use in their garden, and make their vegetable gardens grow well, or their flower gardens grow well.
Yeah.
And the benefit of course, composting is that you keep all of that waste from going into the landfill where it doesn't become compost, right? When you put food scraps and plant matter into the compost, it just rots. It doesn't actually become beneficial to nature. So we're closing the loop on waste, right? We're creating jobs, right? And we're helping everybody make a great contribution to the environment for a small monthly fee that then also helps grow the local economy. I mean, it's the full circular economy going on.
Absolutely.
Now, before you started this, had you ever driven a tractor before?
Nope. I actually learned how to drive this tractor this winter. So we initially were composting at another farm in Hamilton, which is near Percival, kind of western Loudoun. And we decided to move out to Middleburg because it's a little bit closer. They had more space for us, and also because they had this tractor. So before basically January of this year, we were doing everything by hand, which, as you can imagine, it got to a point where we were tapped out.
Yeah.
We physically could not do it anymore.
Yeah.
Not only just making these piles, because we're collecting 1,000 pounds of compost a week, 1,000 pounds of food waste a week.
1,000 pounds of food waste a week.
Yeah, that's generally where we're at in terms of what we take out to the farm every week. So doing that by hand, mixing that with 1 or 2 parts wood chip and then having to basically turn the pile or move it around down the line, it got impossible.
So how long would you say it took to fill this half of the compost? If 1,000 pounds a week, plus obviously you're adding wood chips to that.
Yeah, so we filled out so we've made 4 of these piles since late January. So January.
And we're recording the middle of May
Yeah,
right now.
Yep.
Late January.
that's right.
So 5 months, filled out 4 of these.
Yeah, so we're basically taking a little, maybe like 5 or 6 weeks on one pile. And then it basically shrinks down as it goes. So compost, by the time it finishes, is less than usually half of the original volume. So this pile is really big. Look at the next pile, a little bit smaller. This is actually the next pile that we had. This is the second oldest pile, much smaller. And then this is our final oldest pile.
Okay.
But originally it was this size. So if you can imagine, it's been shrinking down with each continuous step.
That's impressive. Now, what's your relationship with the farm? Are you renting space from them? Are you in a partnership with them? Like, is there...
So we actually found this farm through another composting company in Loudoun County. It's called Food Loop Compost. They no longer are doing composting like this.
Okay.
But we were mentored by them in many ways. They operate in a pretty similar area that we did, and we got to know them really well. Really great friends. Lauren Gassman from Food Loop really gave us such good advice, and we worked with her for a long time. And eventually she ended up being pregnant.
Oh, okay.
And she was kind of ready to pass this on, but she was really intent on like keeping it going.
Sure. So you're kind of taking over and continuing what was being done there.
Yeah, that's right. So we took over all of her subscribers.
Okay.
And basically merged them with our subscribers. And then this location that she was composting at worked a lot better than the one that we were working at. So we asked her, and we talked to the farm owners if we could move here too, and they were happy to do so. So this is Gathering Springs Farm. So kind of the idea behind this farm is it's meant to be a gathering spring where lots of groups of people and lots of people can come together and kind of work on things that make the community a better place.
Sure.
So we actually pay nothing to work here.
Nice.
Yeah, and we pay nothing to use a tractor. The only thing that we do, I pestered the owner over and over again until she would let me pay for gas. So we now pay for some of the gas of the tractor, but everything else is free. These bays were already set up by her, and she basically lets us use this. And we're looking to, hopefully at some point in the next year, it might be a little longer than that, we're gonna move our entire operation over all the way there to the other side of the farm, expand it out, and hopefully raise enough money to build a concrete pad or some sort of compacted earth pad that would really allow us to compost more consistently, and just have more space. Because at the moment we're kind of running out of space here.
Sure.
As you can tell, so that pile over there is actually the Gathering Springs pile. So they've made that compost over time.
Okay.
And then all the other piles are ours. But we're kind of running out of space. We have 4 spots in these 2 bays. And then we have 1 pile of just maturing compost over there. So yeah, that'll definitely be where we're heading next. But yeah, it's pretty much them just doing it from the happiness of their heart. They're really, really cool people.
And it benefits the ecology. It benefits the global ecosystem, the local ecosystem, and it benefits the community because, like we said before, you're able to hire people then who now have a little more money in their pocket, which they're going to most likely, because they're interested in working on this kind of effort, spend in the local area.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
as that money swirls around, right, it grows the community. It doesn't leave to go to big agribusinesses that are trying to sell nitrogen fertilizer that they've harvested and whatnot. And we're reclaiming what could have been lost, right, and turning it into something useful again. I was reading Donut Economics, by the way. If you haven't read Donut Economics, highly recommend you look it up and check it out. Well, first of all, what are you studying in college?
So right now I'm a double major, mechanical engineering and sociology.
Okay, okay. Mechanical engineering and sociology, nice. My sister went to college at Virginia Tech for mechanical engineering and
Really?
political science. So
Oh, wow.
I'm familiar
so
with you,
funny.
with you freaky double majors on this kind of thing. But Donut Economics is a book that I still need to do a formal review for it for the channel. But it's a new look at economic systems. And one of the things that they said in the book is there are no waste products. There are just products you're not accounting for.
Yep.
Right?
That's very true.
Right? There's no externalities, right? If you pollute the atmosphere, that's something that somebody else has to pay for at some point. And so you're short-circuiting that, right? And all the people all your subscribers are short-circuiting that. So if you're a customer of Worm Works, like, good job, right? So that's fantastic. This is just the first step. Burying the compost is just the first step, right?
Yep.
What do you do next? Like, what will happen to this pile? Obviously, we've seen the stages it goes through. I see there's a thermometer buried here in this one, right? That's not something that you're trying to compost, right? What's the purpose of this thermometer?
Yeah, hopefully not. Well, the first thing, I'm going to have to cover up some of these pieces that are out. But this thermometer keeps track of the temperature of the piles. And this temperature gauge kind of gives us an inside look on what's going on inside of this pile.
I don't know if we can see that. There's a little bit of a glare. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So that reads 130 degrees.
Yep.
Is that Fahrenheit?
Yep, that's Fahrenheit.
And what is that in Celsius for our European friends? It's 54? Looks like 54 degrees.
Something like that?
Yeah, 54 degrees. As of time of recording, we're standing outside. It's like 67 degrees Fahrenheit.
And it also just rained for the past 2 days.
And it just rained. So why is the inside of that compost pile so hot?
Composting fundamentally is controlled decomposition of organic matter with the presence of oxygen. So what happens is when you mix certain materials together, so carbon and nitrogen, these are the main ingredients that we're looking at here. So wood is our carbon-rich material, and the food waste and other organic matter that we're picking up from subscribers is generally...
We don't need a copyright strike for somebody driving by playing Born in the USA.
They're having a great time driving. But
all right, so back up to the wood chips thing that you're saying.
Yeah, so wood chips are carbon rich. So that means they just have a higher carbon to nitrogen ratio than 30 to 1. And then food waste and other organic matter is a nitrogen rich material, also called greens, and carbons are browns. And you mix those together at a proper ratio, which is about 30 to 1, carbon to nitrogen ratio, which isn't like 30 to 1 volume ratio. It's actually, depends on the material. Different ones have different ratios. You kind of have to estimate from there.
Yeah.
And then you make sure it's a proper moisture level, which fortunately in Virginia, it's very easy to get this moisture level. We don't have to add any water to this. This is just some of the outside
You can almost
stuff.
make a snowball kind of compost.
Oh yeah, you can go in here and make a snowball with this stuff. So it kind of is a little bit firm, but it kind of falls apart. So that's what you're looking for, almost like a wrung out sponge level of moisture. And then if you provide it with oxygen, so that's what mixing and moving these piles causes. Basically, these piles then are perfect ecosystems for thermophilic bacteria and also funguses and all those bugs and all that kind of stuff. But the thermophilic bacteria basically convert all of these four main input ingredients, and they produce heat and they decompose the complex chemicals that are inside of the stuff that we're trying to break down. And because this produces heat, you can actually, if your pile has a high heat, it shows that it's decomposing really well. And if your pile is low heat, it's not decomposing as efficiently as it can be. But really what we're going for here is we want high heat because high heat kills pathogens. So 130 degrees and up kills pathogens. It also kills seeds. So we're able to put in fruits and vegetables with seeds in them. And by the time we get to the finished product, there are no seeds left. And it breaks down faster as well with high heat. So we're aiming to get high heat, and we get that by controlling these four input ingredients. And every time we come out to these to the farm, we check on the temperature of all 4 piles, see how they're doing. And yeah, right now this is at 130 degrees, which is really good, but typically our piles are a little bit hotter when it's not raining and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, as long as it's below 160 degrees, between 130, I would say the sweet spot in terms of like what it should be is probably 130 to like 145. Anything above 160 and your microbes actually start dying inside.
Okay.
Because it's too hot for
Gotcha.
the heat-loving microbes. So yeah, that's kind of what we do. If it gets too hot, we mix it around, introduce some air, cool it down. And if it's not hot enough, then we mix it around, add water if we need to, or add different materials like more nitrogen, which typically makes it hotter.
So where are your worms?
So our worms are in my basement back home.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so we only have indoor worms. So we used to have outdoor worm beds that we made out of concrete, just basically concrete rectangles that surrounded basically like just piles of dirt that we would continuously add on to. But after moving from that farm, we instead just moved all the worms into my storage room in the basement of my house. And right now we're actually in the middle of sifting all the worms. So all of our worm compost is all done and mature and ready to go. So we're in the process of using our sifter to sift through it, get all the fine stuff, separate all the worms, and allow them to restart a new bin.
What is it that you would recommend composting, and specifically what would you recommend avoiding trying to compost?
Yeah, so this is both with us and home composters because we're kind of in the same spot, but meat and dairy is pretty difficult to compost. Not that it won't break down or won't decompose, but honestly it's because it will decompose too well. So if you throw meat and dairy in here, a large amount especially, we can handle small amounts of meat and dairy, but for example, a home composter, you don't want to add meat and dairy to your compost system because they are so rich with these nutrients that these microbes love that they just rot so fast that they produce really pungent smells. They're hard to control in terms of their decomposition. They attract pests, rodents, and also they have a higher level of pathogens. So, of course, if you're not hitting those super high temperatures and you're not hitting them consistently, and you're not hitting them throughout the entire depth of your pile, it can actually pose a pretty serious like health risk because what's happening is if you go to plant that compost afterwards with like fruits or vegetables or anything like that, this food that you're growing is now contaminated with pathogens. You can get salmonella or E. coli or all these different things that you would get from rotting meat in your dirt. So right now we do not accept meat or dairy because even though our piles can handle them, it's not something that we want to kind of risk. And I think that we want to wait until we have, concrete pads and bigger piles and we're able to guarantee that we're not endangering anyone with our compost and that we're not also attracting pests or rodents onto this farm.
Another thing I want to ask about is I noticed a lot of the compost came with a plastic bag.
Yeah.
So normally you would say, hey, I don't want to put plastic in my compost, right? Because plastic takes hundreds of years to degrade.
Yeah.
So what's special about these plastic bags?
So these are actually compostable plastic bags. So we purchased our compostable bags actually from a composting company that we're friends with. We visited their farm. They're really nice people. Key City Compost. They're up in Frederick, Maryland, just across the Potomac. And
we'll put links down in below with all of these things.
You definitely should. They're really cool people. And what they do is they also, on top of doing a composting operation similar to ours, albeit on a bigger scale, they also have partnered with a manufacturer to produce actually compostable materials. So unfortunately what's going on right now is there are a lot of compostable or biodegradable materials that don't actually break down in a pile like this, or even a commercial pile. Because you can kind of claim that it's compostable, you can claim it's biodegradable without really having to prove that if I throw it in a pile like this, in 2 months, it'll be compost. Yeah. But these ones really work really well. Same with all the ones that they sell. So we recommend any of our subscribers who want to buy things like that, just go to them. I mean, we get nothing out of this. We just love that they have gone through the work of finding that material. But Yeah, what we do is we line our buckets that we give to subscribers with these bags. And what it allows us to do is have much cleaner buckets. So before we did this, we would be cleaning out our buckets and there would be chunks of food waste stuck to it and sludge and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. And now that we've instituted this into all of our buckets, really the most we're ever going to get is a little bit of juice at the bottom, which is pretty easy to clean.
Yeah. All right. So, eggshells,
Yes, great,
coffee grounds,
great,
cardboard boxes.
amazing,
Yeah. Paper bags.
amazing,
Yeah. Shredded paper.
amazing.
Yeah. These are things because I run a compost pile for just a couple people in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like 8 or 9 people bring me their compost.
That's awesome.
And we've talked about it before on the channel. And so that's gotten me interested and a little bit knowledgeable about what you're doing. Obviously, it's comparable, but at a very different scale. I don't need a tractor, but I have a wheelbarrow. It's the
Yeah.
same equivalent thing. I don't add wood chips. So where do you get your wood chips?
Yeah, so we actually get these wood chips through a company called Chip Drop. They are really cool. I mean, it's just like a national company, but the idea behind it is arborists, so people who come to your house and chop down these trees, or chop down trees that have fallen in the middle of the road, or cut trees around power lines. They have all of this wood, and usually what they have to do is they have to drive out to the landfill and pay the landfill to take this wood and these wood chips that they produce, which is a big cost for them. And what Chip Drop does is you sign up, you get them in your location. You can also offer to pay a little bit, but usually it's like a free service. That you can drop all of your wood chips here. So basically all these wood chips are locally sourced from Loudoun County, from wood companies, arborists that are cutting down trees of our neighbors. And instead of having to go to landfill where they're buried, or sometimes they're produced into some really, really low quality mulch, if you've ever gotten landfill mulch, instead we can recycle it, put it back in the ground, and kind of give the nutrients back to trees if people are planting trees with our compost.
And look at this, folks. This is all carbon that is basically being sequestered
Yep.
because it grew as a tree, which captured the carbon from the atmosphere. Because trees, amazingly, get most of their mass from the air,
Yeah.
right? It's been cut down for whatever reason, hopefully a reasonable reason, and not just more
hope.
development,
Yeah.
and then dropped here for free again to avoid being put into the waste stream. Win-win-win, right?
Absolutely.
Wood chips help keep pests down. They help.
Yep.
They add carbon to your pile, so they go with the greens. This is your brown,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
just amazing.
They also help the longevity of the compost, because our finished compost, we sift out the big chunks of wood, but
Let's go look at your finished compost.
yeah, this pile is almost finished. I can't say this is we're gonna let this mature for a few more weeks, but it can still give you an idea of what some finished compost would look like.
That's the shot. Wow, look at that.
So once upon a time, this was all food waste that families and businesses around Loudoun and Fairfax County.
And now the only thing that's recognizable in there
us.
is wood chips,
Yep, that's right.
and those are discolored and smaller.
You can see it's tiny grains.
Tiny
It's
grains.
really tiny grains. You see here's a piece of eggshell.
Yep.
Because some things take longer to break down than other stuff. But wood chips, eggshells, these things in these small pieces that you leave in your compost actually add a lot of nutrients and add nutrients over the long term. So these wood chips that take a long time to break down, when you have your compost in your pile, you have your compost in your garden, anything like that for a long time, these wood chips will continue to add nutrients as they slowly break down into your soil. You need organic matter. That's how you get good plant growth. And not only that, but this is an alive organic matter. This is full of microbes. This is full of bacteria and fungus that plants have evolved over hundreds of millions, billions of years to grow alongside. So when you plant your plants in a dead soil or a dead growing medium, it's not how they naturally have evolved to grow. So this is incredible, because when we give compost to people, it has like humus, which is a really important organic matter for growing plants. It has that bacteria and fungus, which creates that underground ecosystem. And it also has plant hormones that help things grow. Worms, for instance. These compost piles are not our vermicomposting piles. However, they still are full of worms. And these worms, as they go in the soil, they aerate the soil, really helps plants grow to their full potential. Compost is able to not only hold on to water when there's an absence of water, so basically protect plants against drought,
Okay.
but also it allows water to run through it faster than other mediums when it's overwatered. So,
And for those of you who are not familiar with the region of the world that we're in, Northern Virginia, outside of this beautiful farmland, has been heavily developed. And what the developers do is they come in and they scrape off all the topsoil,
Yep.
drive big heavy machinery over the ground, dig a basement, throw up a house, move on. And sometimes they'll plant trees. And those trees will not grow as long. They won't have as good developed root systems because they're having to fight against the soil not being great. And so if you want to have a garden in our region of the world, you've got to add soil on top of what's
Absolutely.
there, and you have to add compost or else you're not going to have the nutrients. Or you're stuck buying commercially produced fertilizers year over year over year so you can maybe get a couple of tomatoes.
this is our sifter.
Okay, yep.
So this pile, I took a look at it today, and I think it needs a little bit more time to mature. The way I'm kind of telling that is just off of its smell. It doesn't smell bad, it smells great, but it doesn't smell like just the earth. And that kind of gives me the indication that probably a week or two more would really allow it to mature. And maturing compost is basically, what mature compost is when it's composting with this heat, it's full of thermophilic bacteria and funguses and things like that love the heat. And then when it stops decomposing, it stops producing heat. And as it matures, the thermophilic bacteria and fungus is replaced with mesophilic bacteria and fungus, which is bacteria and fungus that can live at normal room temperature, or like the normal temperature that we would live in, not 160 degrees Fahrenheit. So giving time for compost to get those new bacteria and also break down some of the toxins that are produced during the composting process, just as things are being decomposed, really helps things be better. But even though this isn't quite ready, I can still show you how our composting system works.
Yeah.
So this is called a trommel. I made this with a friend of mine at UVA and brought it back a couple weeks ago. This is like pretty much brand new. And the idea here is we have 3 totes underneath, and we can take this finished compost, throw it in the top. We can rotate this, and these are 1/2-inch holes. So the small pieces of compost can fall through, small wood chips, small other pieces that we want could fall through, and the bigger chunks that are not quite ready get thrown in the back. We can throw it back into the pile for just to be decomposed a little bit more.
And so this works under people power, and because it's angled,
Yep.
which is hard to tell from this view, but
It's a pretty slight angle.
it's a pretty slight angle.
We just have this this little block up here.
All right, well, let's throw something in there and just give it a couple of spins and see if
Yeah.
we can get a good camera angle on this.
So from this allows us to sift a lot faster than we were before. Before we literally had a little, almost like a wire mesh that we bought from Home Depot, and we would basically sift it like this with the compost on top, and it was super labor intensive. And this basically cuts down the time it takes us to sift. If we had a full 27-gallon tote of unsifted compost, we could sift that in about 8 minutes, whereas before that would take us well over an hour and a half, pushing 2 hours by hand. So this is cutting it down pretty significantly. And you can see kind of at the end, this is material that fell all the way through.
So this is the more coarse stuff that didn't get sifted out.
A little more coarse. It's also wet.
Okay, yep.
because it rained.
Clumped together.
So it's clumped together.
Yep. And
but
then in the
then
middle,
here-
this is the stuff that you'd call more finished.
Yeah, so this is what we would actually be giving. This is also clumped because of rain, but you can imagine
Well, let's get a handful
little
side by
less
side
clumped.
here, and let's see what the difference is for one shot here. So on the left is the coarser, and on the right is the filtered.
yeah.
Nice.
This pile, I always want to make sure when I leave that there's no exposed food waste or really any organic matter, like these watermelons.
Right.
You can kind of see these bags because that could attract pests. It could also fly away,
Yeah.
and we want to keep this place clean.
It's a really good sense of scale getting you in the shot in front of the 6 foot tall pile of compost.
Yeah.
5 foot tall pile of compost.
It's
1,000 pounds a week. That's
big
amazing.
one.
Approximately how many subscribers do you have?
We have about 130 families and small businesses that compost with us a week to week. And then we also do some special events. We do, it's upcoming June, this next few weeks, we're gonna be doing a baby shower, 60 people. So we offer some event services for like big events. And that's pretty much what we do, yeah.
What do you do at a baby shower when it's compost related?
Well, one of our subscribers, she's having a baby shower and she's inviting 60 people and she wants to have, like lunch and stuff like that. It's kind of like a picnic. And she got some compostable like cutlery and plates and all that kind of stuff and figured that she would have a lot of food waste left over.
Yeah.
And wanted to compost with us. So what we're doing is we're giving her some materials that she can just put out however she'd like, and informational materials, flyers, what can you compost, what can you not, and a little bit of guidance on how she can run this baby shower. And yeah, this is our first ever baby shower, so we don't really know.
It's not what I expected to be talking about today, that's for sure.
We're stepping into some uncharted territory.
No, that's fantastic. It raises
But I think
awareness.
it'll be really cool.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to do
Awesome. Awesome. I mean, we're talking about saving the next generation anyway. Might as well do it literally at a baby shower,
it. Start off strong.
right? So clearly you're going to clean these buckets out with industrial detergents and tons of water, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So how we clean these buckets, fortunately these buckets aren't too dirty inside. I mean, you can see, aren't big chunks. It's really just some
How
residue.
It's going to come up here. Okay, yep, I can see some of the residue there.
A little bit of residue.
Yeah, not too bad though.
It's
And you
not
know
too
what?
bad.
They don't smell.
They don't.
They
really
don't.
don't.
They don't
Definitely
smell.
want to clean it out though, because we kind of want to make this as clean as we possibly
good
can.
service, good experience. You don't
So-
want people to get something that does smell and they go, this composting stuff is gross.
Yeah, our real goal is just to make composting as easy, as stress-free as possible as it can be for our subscribers. So this is just our first step of cleaning. So what we're doing here is called dry scouring. So we take wood chips, we put them inside these buckets, and we basically take our hand and scrub those wood chips around. These wood chips soak up this residue, and they also leave little wood chip residue, which over time actually prevents smells in the future. So we'll leave a little bit of wood chip, little bit of wood chip material at the very bottom, which is just there to soak up some material and prevent smells.
Now, is this a trick you learned from the previous composting company?
It is. We kind of trialed it at the same time. She discovered it and was telling me about it, and I was like, it sounds like a great idea. Because before this, we were just using water and we did not use soap. It was just water and us scrubbing, which cleaned out pretty well, but it just uses so much water.
Yeah.
And it's a mess and it requires access to water, all that kind of stuff. And here, we're already at the farm. We can just take it over to the wood chip pile. And this honestly this is way better than doing it with water. Water will hold on to the smells in the bucket, whereas this just smells like wood chips.
Well, George, thanks for having me out today. This is absolutely fascinating. I love everything that you're doing here. It's amazing for not only a small business, but yourself being so young, in college and whatnot, to have started this from asking the question, is this the only way, right? To building all of this out, that's really astounding. You reached out to peers in the community, you were embraced, and they taught you things, and now you're carrying on, the work from another business, the business of your own. Just wow, like this has been astounding. So thanks for having me out. Thanks for having our viewers along.
Yeah, of course. I was happy to have it.
We're going to probably have to come back and do another visit with you at some point
Honestly,
in the future.
anytime.
See how the progress is going. Just like seriously, just like thank you. This has been amazing. And as always,
Do good.
and be good. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, so the cool thing about Gathering Springs is we're not the only company or group of people out here that are doing some agricultural work. They're also, Gathering Springs themselves, Pam and our partner do have a bunch of things that they grow on site. I think these are their lambs. They have pigs, they have chickens. They also have a whole farm over there. But then they also have invited a group of people who grow flowers and sell flowers in the community. There's a mushroom grower here. I think there are a couple other people too. So it really is a gathering spring where a lot of people can come together and really do some good.